The 2024 NFL Draft is in the books, and we're going to look back at it tonight, division by division. We're also going to look at the draft by the numbers. All that and more coming up next on the Draft Countdown Podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's edition of the Draft Countdown Podcast. I'm your co-host, Brian Bosorge, joined as always by my co-host, Shane P. Hallam. Shane, we are 357 days, 22 hours, 58 minutes, and 20 seconds away from the 2025 NFL Draft.
Look, we both have our 2025 mock drafts up already. So, and you put out a nice article grading our very first 2024 mocks. Mine from, back from 2022
or September of 22.
So
that would look kind of rough. I'm not gonna lie.
Only 2 years early, but I'm excited for you to grade both.
Well,
at least
we both had. Mine was a little bit easier, but you also had Caleb Williams as the number one pick in the draft, so that was the only one we had exactly right. But it is what it is. If you are watching live on YouTube and you have a question you'd like us to answer at the end of the show, drop us a question in the chat. If you're following along on Twitter or X there, send us a question at Draft Countdown. Or if you're a member of our Discord channel, you can drop us a question there in the podcast section. If you're not a member of Discord, go to draftcountdown.com. Top right corner of the search bar, there's a link to join. And also now we are broadcasting live on Twitch. This is apparently a thing that I just found out about yesterday.
Really nice.
Now we have a Twitch feed that will be showing us live there if Twitch is the thing where you get your
the video games. We got to play some college football 25 on Twitch and talk NFL draft. That'd be a hit.
Maybe.
All
right. So Brian pops in and says, we were actually close on some of those. That is great. We were close.
There are a couple I was surprised about. A couple, that you had too that were very, very close. So it was pretty good.
Yep. I think I had Brock Bowers. I can't remember how it ended up, but there were a couple close ones. But all right, Shane, are you ready to look at the draft by the numbers? Because I've got a lot of numbers I wrote down here, and on my handy notepad here, because I'll be damned if I'm going to use a Google Doc when I can use a notepad. This was an interesting draft. I mean, we talked about it on the live stream Saturday night about all the craziness in the first round. We don't have to really rehash all that, but 6 quarterbacks, top 12, 14 straight offensive players, never happened before. 23 offensive players in the first round, wild stuff. But let's just score us here, top 100 grade, Shane. You were one off the championship, man. One off. 84 out of your top 100 got selected. 85 was the crescendo this year. I had 80, respectable. Same thing I had last year. I carried it out, Shane, because there were 257 picks in the draft. So I looked to see how many of the top 257 on your board and mine that remained. You had 252 players in your top 257 were selected.
Wow, I feel like that's really good.
5 off. Right? I had 250 out of 257.
That's really impressive too.
That's pretty good, right?
Yeah, geez,
that's pretty good.
Call up the Hunter Report. A new contest starting next year,
right?
Top 257.
Let's carry this baby out all 3 days. By conference, Shane, we all know the SEC is the champ here at 59. They always are. They never lose. What I was surprised by here is the Big Ten was tied for second.
Ooh, interesting.
With the now defunct Pac-12.
I was going to say that.
Yeah. Now, I ran out of time here. I was going to carry this article. Let's see what this would have looked like next year with the Big 12. I just didn't want to do that.
I would guess. I mean, Texas, Oklahoma.
Texas had 11.
Texas had a decent amount, but Washington and Oregon crushed it. So I think it'd be close. I think
it'd put the Big Ten closer to the SEC. I still think the SEC wins.
I think, you're probably right.
The ACC had 43. The Big 12 had 29 to close out the Power 5. The and this is where the portal, and these numbers I'm about to go through here is the shining example of where what the portal has done to college football. The American Athletic Conference had 6.
Ouch.
That's a good football conference. But more shocking than that to me was the MAC and Mountain West Conference each had 2.
Yikes.
The Sun Belt had as many as the American Athletic Conference.
Yeah.
With 6. Conference USA had 3. There was as many Division II players drafted as MAC and Mountain West Conference players.
I was going to say, I think small school wise, it's definitely going down in numbers, but you're almost getting as many small school players as some of the smaller conferences.
The FCS had 10 players drafted this year. The International Pathway Program had 2, which I thought was fun. And the Canadian Football League had 1. So there you go.
Right.
Where was sadly here, 0 HBCU players drafted this year.
Yeah.
Of the 257 players that were, and this is why, by the way, when these combine lists come out, this is why the combine's a thing. Of the 257 players drafted, only 18 of them did not get a combine invite.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, and we're talking, right, the first one taken was Giovanni Manu, International Pathway. Yeah. You got the 2 International Pathway program.
Yeah.
You have the Canadian Football League
player. The first player that was not drafted, that did not go to the combine, that was neither a Canadian Football League player or an IPP player, was Casey Washington, the wide receiver from Illinois, and he was the 187th player picked in the 6th round.
Yeah, which was a wild pick anyway.
Did Zion? No, he is not signed yet. He is unsigned, and that's got to be the injuries.
Right. Yeah, you wonder if maybe you'll get a camp tryout to get an injury eval. That happens at times. 3
of the last 4 players from Michigan picks kind of saved them. Yeah. All-Star games. Senior Bowl, 110 players drafted. 43% of the NFL draft were Senior Bowl players. 57 from the Shrine, 17 from our good friends at the Hula Bowl.
Pretty solid.
CGS got blanked this year. Tropical Bowl gets 1. First time I can recall them getting drafted in a while. That was Levi Drake Rodriguez from Texas A&M Commerce.
Nice.
The 1 Tropical Bowl player drafted. Senior Bowl, you can tell who loved Mobile this year. The Green Bay Packers, 8 players drafted from the Senior Bowl. Rams, Seahawks, Titans each had 6. Cardinals, Bills, Chargers, and Eagles had 5.
So the Packers had 2 more than the next highest team.
Yes.
Wild.
They did their work down here in Mobile, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Position groups, wide receiver tops the charts at 35. Quarterbacks at 34.
Yep.
Now that run it took a while for that to get caught up.
Yeah, once the cornerbacks had to start going, those corners later.
Interior offensive line comes in 3rd at 29, followed by offensive tackles at 26, then defensive linemen at 23, edge at 22, safeties at 23. Only 11 quarterbacks go. That feels a little lower than I think we expected.
Yeah.
Tight ends, 12. 19 running backs selected, 19 linebackers, 1 punter, 3 kickers, no long snappers.
Yeah, hey, same as I had in my final mock there for the special teamers.
So there you go. That is
nice.
the draft
interesting.
by the numbers.
I feel like we're gonna get wide receiver and corner as the top 2 positions in every draft for a while.
that feels safe. Yeah. And that's also something I noticed when I was just doing one round of my 2025 mock draft. I'm like, I don't think we're going to have to wait until pick 15 next year to get a defensive player selected.
No, I do. No way.
So let's look back at our Grapico party where we do Senior Bowl predictions here. We each picked one player that we were lower on coming into the week that we're now higher. So where did those guys come out? Shane, you said Gabe Hall, defensive lineman.
Oh, ouch.
Undrafted, baby.
Undrafted.
Paul said Dylan Lobby, running back, University of New Hampshire, 6th round.
6th round.
Brian said Delmar Glaze, offensive tackle, Maryland, 3rd round pick. That's a dub for Brian.
At least you didn't say Spencer Rattler, so we're in good shape.
Jimmy pops in 3 Hula Bowl to the Cardinals.
Oh,
so we see who was hanging out in Orlando for the week.
Yeah, Jimmy knows.
Who were we higher on that we're now lower? Shane, you're going to take another L here.
No.
As yours was Jordan Morgan from Arizona, who went in the 1st round.
Went in the 1st round. Nice.
Should he have? Maybe not.
Maybe.
Paul, I'm going to give the dub here. Brandon Dorless, the defensive line from Oregon, falls to the 4th round.
That's solid.
And I said Cameron Kitchens, Miami safety, fell in the 3rd round.
I fell another round, yeah. So
number of players taken in round 1, the number was 10. I said 7. You said 8. Paul said 9. He was the highest. Scott said 6. Surprise name in the 1st round, Shane. You said Darius Robinson, defensive lineman from Missouri. So you get that one. I said Johnny Wilson from Florida State, who went undrafted. Paul said Jamari Thrash, wide receiver Louisville, went in the 5th round. Scott said Lad McConkey, wide receiver Georgia, who went
two picks off. 2 picks off, yeah.
Over under 113.5 drafted. We went under that 110. Shane, you were the only one that had under.
Okay. Oh, there you go.
So let's see. Over under 42.5 players drafted in the top 100. There was 45. 3 of us went over. Me, you, and Scott. Paul said under.
You picked. I gotta give you credit for picking some good numbers there. You were pretty close with your gambling odds.
It's a gift.
It's a gift, yeah. That's why you're so good at betting on the UFL.
The UFL. I have no idea how that is working out for me. But I'm hitting like 90% on UFL bets this year, and it's insanity. All right. Are you ready to talk about these draft classes, Shane?
Yeah, let's talk about this draft class. Let's do it.
All right. So we're going to talk about we're going to go East, South, North, and West here, AFC and NFC. We're going to start with the AFC East, and I guess we'll look at maybe the best draft class you thought from each division, and then one that kind of left you in the lurch.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. So AFC East wise, I would say probably my favorite draft class is probably the Miami Dolphins, which for, kind of factoring in that they didn't have a ton of picks going into the draft. But I like the Chop Robinson pick at 21. I was a big fan of Patrick Paul. Thought he was a borderline first. They get him at the end of round 2. And then I really like giving up the future 3rd for Jalen Wright, who I thought should have been a 3rd round pick. Talk about amazing fit for the Miami Dolphins. Him and Devon Achane, if he replaces Raheem Mostert, I mean, that's going to be a track and a half. And then I really like the rest of their day 3. Muhammad Kamara, I had my top 100, the edge rusher out of Colorado State. So I think the Dolphins hit a really big need of getting after the passer, which they struggled to do last season. Malik Washington, I thought was a steal round 6. Mike McDaniel said that was his guy. That was his pick. Slot receiver is barren there. And then I thought some good special teamers, Patrick McMorris and Taj Washington. So that was probably my favorite draft. Do you want to do your top of AFC?
I want to go with the Jets. I thought they really hit on some players that I like. Olu Fashanu in the 1st round, the offensive tackle. he's going to play sooner rather than later. I think we both kind of agree there. Love getting Malachi Corley in the early part of the third round. I think he will give them a dynamic threat with the ball in his hands. Getting Braylon Allen in the fourth round feels really good value. I don't hate the redshirt Jordan Travis pick as a developmental quarterback, and getting another running back. I mean, you've upgraded your poor Izzy Abanikanda. I guess he's done, right? Isaiah Davis, and then getting Stiggers in the fifth round, a man with pro experience. You know, he'll already he's going to have to learn the NFL game. So maybe he ends up as a inactive on game days if he makes the roster or practice squad type player. But I kind of like what the Jets did. I think we're both going to have an agreement on who we didn't like.
I don't know if we will. I think the other two drafts are both pretty poor. Honestly, I thought both New England and Buffalo did a pretty poor job I mean, you know, no one fails to draft. I don't think that's the case. So I think I'm gonna go. I'm a little bit torn. I think I'm torn because I like some of the later values that the Bills got, but I think I'm gonna go with the Patriots. I like Drake May. I think he's a fine. You know, he's a fine pick. I'm fine with them not trading down with all the rumors. You know that Minnesota was willing to give both their picks plus another first, and the Giants were willing to give first. Like if you like the quarterback, take the quarterback. But after that, it's such a little iffy. I let Jalen Polk heavily overdrafted by them. Seems like what the Patriots always do is just draft some receiver that should have went around later, and he never works out. Kane Wallace from Penn State, the tackle. I had my top 100, but certainly not at 68. I think was a bit of a reach if they were going for offensive tackle.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, better ones on the. Actually, he wasn't my top 100. I considered him and then moved him out, and I think he ended up dropping pretty far down. And then the rest of the picks, the only ones I liked, Layden Robinson, guard Texas A&M, I thought was solid. Jaheim Bell in the 7th, your boy, I think was a good value. But Marcellus Dial, Joe Milton, even Javon Baker, I'm not as high on as a lot of people. It's just kind of meh.
Yeah, I came away with the same assessment. I did not have Caden Wallace ranked in my top 300. Perhaps an oversight, but he goes at 68. I really thought it was an oversight when I saw you had him at 114. The Bills, a reason I didn't say them is because outside, I mean, yes, I think they reached on Coleman and Cole Bishop slightly, but the rest of the picks after that, I really liked. So I didn't. That's why I took them over said the Patriots had a worse draft than them. Let's move on to the NFC East. And who was the top dog here?
I think it was pretty easily the Philadelphia Eagles for me. I just the first two picks is all we need. And the Philadelphia Eagles win the draft. Like, you got Quinyon Mitchell, my top corner. You got Cooper DeJean, who should have been a first-round pick. I love the move up for him. And, I think Jalix Hunt from Houston Christian, I had him in my top 100 because we knew he was going to go there, but probably a little overdrafted. Like, I don't think he's going to work out to contribute right away. But I thought day 3 is really good. I mean, Will Shipley, I love out of Clemson. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. in the 5th, even with the poor workout, was worthwhile. I like Dylan McMahon, Johnny Wilson, Trevor Keegan. Again, Nia Smith, the wide receiver from Texas A&M, a little overdrafted. But, and I said, you guys said this too on the stream. A lot of these teams in day 3 are draft and return special teams guys. Like, it's important now. And I think Nia Smith is going to be a good kick returner. So, draft them. So I'm fine with it. So the Eagles, to me, were the best.
I agree with you, but just to get another perspective here, I'm going to say the Washington Commanders.
It's a good one too.
For just the amount that they hit on the top 100. You get your quarterback in Jaden Daniels. You get Johnny Newton, falls right in your lap. Now, is he a position of need? No, but now you put Johnny Newton with those two big behemoths they got there now. That's a hell of a rotation. Up the middle, Mike Sanders still, tremendous nickel corner, got him right where he needed to go. Ben Sinnott is probably tight end one on that team now. And Brandon Coleman could play tackle, could play guard. I don't know, but I love that value in the third round there. And even getting a receiver like Luke McCaffrey, maybe overdrafted at pick 100, but I like where they got him. And then you get two great, what I think is going to be great special teams guys in the fifth round, and Jordan McGee and Dominic Hampton. And then Vontae Jean-Baptiste, if he makes the roster, rotational guy on the edge. But they all great athletes, too, that they drafted here. I mean, you can say Daniels and Newton didn't test, but they're green Raz if they test, right? So I think they knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, I with you too. And the Commanders fan of mine on Twitter posted their roster last year and what the projected roster is this year. They're going to have a 53% turnover rate. More than half the roster will be gone and replaced.
And they needed to. I mean,
they needed to. I'm glad they spent. I didn't think they were going to spend all these picks. And they did, and I think it was the way to go.
Any who? I mean, I don't dislike either of the other two we haven't talked about, but I wasn't in love with the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, I don't like the Dallas Cowboys.
Okay,
draft,
well, I'll let you tear into it. I mean, I tell you what, I really like one pick.
Yeah, I mean, so
I really like one pick, and that's Cooper Beebe. I think he's a day one plug and play starter. But other than that, I think you got projects and Jags the rest of the way.
Right. I mean, and I like Marshawn Nealand in the second. I think it's fine, but he's kind of a tweener. I think it's a tough fit for that Dallas defense. I think Tyler Guyton. Both of us know he's a project. Tackle out of Oklahoma, they drafted in the first round. I think Tyler Guyton's a project. Nealand is the edge rusher out of Western Michigan. And then I personally didn't love their day three all that much. The end of day two, they take Maris Lafau, linebacker from Notre Dame. I thought he was clearly he was not even in consideration for my top 100. Like, he was clearly a day three player. And then, Kalen Carson, the corner from Wake Forest. Nathan Thomas, the offensive tackle from Louisiana, Justin Rogers, the big nose from Auburn. Like, they're all fine, but we're talking depth guys at best. Yep. I like Brian Florney, the wide receiver at Southeast Missouri State, for a team that needs a receiver. But how do you not draft a linebacker in a class where 19 or a running back in a class where 19 running backs were selected when they have absolute Rico Dowdle and now just signed Zeke Elliott back? Great. Like, you are setting up that offense to fail when they had numerous shots on day three at running backs. I think could start for this team, and they just passed on it. I think was pretty egregious.
Yeah. I mean, that in itself, when you have 7 draft picks, and I love Rico Dowdle. I mean, obviously, but come on.
Yeah, I mean, he's not a starter in the NFL, right?
The Giants were fine. I'm not a big fan of Newbin, where he was selected, but other than that, it was fine. Let's move on to the AFC South. And I heard you on the Mark Moses show the other day. I was listening to that on his podcast. You had some nice things to say about Tennessee, I believe.
Yeah. I thought Tennessee Titans draft was probably the best of the South. South as a whole was a pretty good draft group. It's going to be tough for me to pick a worst if I remember correctly, but yeah, I think the Titans, were interesting. J.C. Latham at 7, maybe a little bit of a reach there, but I do like getting T'Vondre Sweat despite the off the field issues. I think Cedric Gray, I had rated as a top 100 player, the linebacker from North Carolina. And then I think day 3 were definitely some shots in the dark for Tennessee, but I know you especially, both of us like Jarvis Brownlee, the corner out of Louisville. Jaquan Jackson, the receiver from Tulane, once again, special teams. I'm fine taking a special teamer there. And I like taking the shot on James Williams from Miami, even though he had a terrible, draft process. But like in the 7th, let me take a shot on this guy, see if we can convert him. I think Jalen Harrell should have been drafted much higher the edge from Michigan. So, Tennessee, I think was a solid draft, but this was a solid. You could point to any draft in this division, and I'd say it's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go with because Chris Ballard's now my new favorite general manager of all time, and I'm just gonna go with him. Although he went sub green Raz twice.
Yeah,
Actually, he even went red.
he went red. I was flipping out.
Shot, but just based off of 4 of his top 5 picks, I'm gonna go with them there. Obviously, Latu at 15, I think is one of the best players in this draft class. Getting Adney Mitchell at 52 felt like theft at that point. Tanner Bordolini, I think, is going to start at some point this season for them.
Yeah.
Either by injury or whatever. And Anthony Gold as a return man, be it kick return, punt return, somehow I think he's going to make an impact as a rookie. But the rest of I think, and maybe Goncalves at some point develops into a starter. I don't think he's there yet, but I like the Colts just with those 4 guys. I'm going to go with them. I did not like either of the Jags or the Texans.
Ooh, okay.
You were saying you think you'd go here. I just did not like, but I'm just going to start with the Texans. They don't have a first round pick because of the trade back, and then their first pick is a 4.62 corner in Kamari Lassiter. Just it's brutal overdraft for me. Blake Fisher could be a solid starter at some point, but he's not going to be for the Texans this year. Kalen Bullock was just a guy for me at safety. I know you were higher on him. It's just not a draft class I like. I really can't point to a single player that the Texans drafted where I say, you know what, I like that guy. That's a great pick.
Yeah, I probably would pick the Texans as the worst as well. I think Lassiter, my guess is the Texans had a little faster time on their stopwatch than Dane Brugler's source did. It seems like it's still highly contested, but I was surprised he went Kamari Lassiter to the corner from Georgia went as high as he did. I like Blake Fisher, the tackle from Notre Dame. In your mock draft piece, looking back, I had him in the first round. I was like, yeah, it's not bad. I think he could be a starter, immediately for them. And I do like Kalen Bullock, the safety from USC. But there's not really an impact player here for the Texans. When you trade out of the first, I think it's difficult to maybe have drafted that type of player.
Yeah, and the Jags, I thought they did fine with their first 2 picks. After that, it got dicey for me.
The Jerry and Jones pick in the third, I wasn't great, but I like day. I thought Javon Foster could have been a day 2 pick. I thought, Jordan Jefferson has the athleticism. Keelan Robinson might be the best returner in this draft, the running back from Texas. So I didn't mind everything outside of Jerry and Jones, the corner from Florida State. I thought was overdrafted by them at 96 overall.
All right, let's move on to the NFC South. And we had a comment earlier from our man Buccaneer Bruce. Was very surprised that Graham Barton made it to 26. Thinks the Cowboys are going to regret that one.
I think they might too. Moving down and not taking Barton. I think he's going to be locked in as a starter for a long time. I think that was a good pick, for sure.
All right, so let's just go ahead and get the elephant in the room here and get to our worst draft in this division, because it's both going to be the same, and we're both going to talk about the Atlanta Falcons, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not quite as killer on this as some people, but the Michael Penix pick at 8 does set you up for a poor draft. I don't mind the rest of what they did as much as some Falcons fans do.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ororo or whatever. Anyway, I think he was about a round overdrafted. He was probably going to get drafted sooner than that anyway, but even then, I still think he was overdrafted. Braylon Trice, Brandon Dorlus, I thought were good value the times that they were picked. Beyond that, it was just kind of there for me.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I do think Ruger Horror would have gotten drafted. They probably had to trade up if that's who they wanted, right? So you probably did have to trade up for him, which everyone else saying, oh, he was going to be there later. Not necessarily, that wasn't going to happen. But taking him over Johnny Newton, I think definitely could be a mistake when all said and done.
A little bit. Who was your favorite draft?
I don't know if there's a good draft in this, like a great draft in this division that I'm like, oh yeah, this team was the best. Ultimately, I guess I would surprisingly go with the New Orleans Saints as my favorite draft. Your boy maybe pulled out the best draft of the division. I mean, Talise Fuaga at 14, I think rock solid pick, solid starter, big need. They got Kool-Aid McKinstry, the corner out of Alabama, who I'd rated as a first-round pick. Spencer Rattler, your man, the quarterback out of South Carolina, fall into the 5th round. I won that bet, by the way. And we both had him rated as a 3rd-round pick. And I thought there are a number of players on day 3. Jalen Ford, linebacker, Texas, I had rated higher. Christian Boyd, the D-tackle in Northern Iowa, and Josiah Ezram, the offensive tackle at Eastern Kentucky, I had rated higher. Bob Means, a receiver from Pitt, maybe a little bit overdrafted, but you're talking about a speed receiver to back up Rashid Shaheed. I'm fine with that too. I think the Saints have the best draft in the division.
I do too. I love the trade up. Normally I'm criticizing Mickey on the trade ups there, but that was a good one. I mean,
that was a good one. That was
targeting Kool-Aid and going up was a good job. And I'm going on record saying Spencer Rattler starts at some point this season.
I mean, how many rookie quarterbacks did we have start last year? I'm not sure it's a bold. I think we almost had 9, almost as many of them were drafted.
Tommy DeVito started multiple games last year.
Right,
I guess that's fair.
But no, I hope he does. I hope he does.
Yeah. Tampa Bay's I thought was fine.
Solid.
Yeah. I mean, I think Tyke Smith was about 2 rounds overdrafted. I like getting Braswell where they did in the 2nd round. Getting McMillan as well, I thought was solid.
I think Elijah Klein may have been my lowest rated player drafted. Pretty close.
Possibly, yeah.
The guard out of
439. That's probably accurate. Yeah. But I just can't criticize anybody.
Nah, 6th round pick. That's fine.
Yeah. I like Carolina's draft as well for not having originally not having a 1st round pick. Now, I don't know about giving up draft capital to trade up one spot to get Xavier Legette. And I love Xavier Legette, but that just seemed a bit weird to me. Was Buffalo going to take Legette at 32? Obviously not. So why did you really need to?
Well, someone else trying to move up for Legette, right? That's the only other option when you trade up one pick.
I can't see that. I don't know. Maybe they know something we didn't know. Jonathan Brooks, I think was a great pick. I loved Trevor Wallace pick, and getting JT Sanders tight end in the 4th round I thought was good. So Carolina, all in all, I think was fairly solid there. All right, let's get to the division that matters here. Obviously, the AFC North, and I don't want to say that your Steelers had the best draft, Shane.
I mean,
but I think they did.
Yeah. I feel like it's tough to pick another team. Though I don't think this is a division where I think all 4 did pretty decently for what the hand they were dealt. But I mean, the Steelers draft to me was just phenomenal. Troy Fatano at 20, it started right at that tackle. Zach Frazier was getting mocked consistently in the 1st round. The center out of West Virginia, they get him at 51. He's probably going to start day 1. Roman Wilson, the receiver from Michigan, right where he should have went.
He's going to start day 1.
We're going to start in the slot day 1. Peyton Wilson, the linebacker at NC State, we both like him. Getting him at 98, I thought was a really good pickup. He's not going to start day 1, but next year he's sliding in there. And then, Mason McCormick, the guard from South Dakota State, was a 98, 97 percentile athlete, Raz style. He's probably going to have a couple years. And Logan Lee and Ryan Watts in the 6th are fine. But ultimately, the first time since 1976, the Steelers have drafted 3 offensive linemen in a draft class.
I was writing up. It's going up on Friday. I think my AFC North recap. And I said, don't be surprised if the Steelers have 3 starting offensive linemen this year from this draft.
Yeah, I don't know if Mason McCormick will crack it if there's an injury, but without that,
I said at some point. I didn't necessarily. Yeah. AB said, have the Steelers ever had two linebackers at the same time as athletic as Queen and Wilson?
I don't think so. Chad Brown and Levon Kirkland, I don't think are matching up those two. So Landon Roberts gets one more year kind of as the thumper, and then Wilson and Queen together could be very interesting.
Farrier and Timmons.
I mean, Timmons was very athletic. James Farrier was not. So,
yeah, are they going to play Ryan Watts at corner or safety? I'm just curious how they got that listed out.
Yeah, I've heard he's going to be kind of the Patrick Peterson hybrid. They might do a little, number 4, number 5 corner, but line him up at safety. Do similar to kind of in the new age, type of.
I know he's going to play special teams. I know that.
That's they drafted him for, because
if everybody has a clean bill of health, this is a franchise revitalizing draft, I think, for the Steelers.
Yeah, I think so too.
Go back to the Panthers. Todd Barndollar says on Steve Smith's podcast today, the Patriots were trading up to 32 for Leggett.
Then let them.
So the Panthers outbid them.
let the Patriots move up for Leggett. Like, okay, I'll take Keon Coleman then, right?
Honorable mention, I guess, here has to go to the Ravens for just doing what they always do and letting the board fall to them.
Solid draft again.
Yeah, they just sit there. They get Wiggins, they get Rosengarten, Adiz Isaac, Tez Walker, TJ Tampa, all guys that were higher value players fall to them at their spot.
And Brian, can you have a quarterback more similar to Lamar Jackson than Devin Leary from Kentucky, right? It's like the complete opposite.
I think we said that on the stream.
Yeah, I think you did.
Like, this seems like an odd fit.
Yeah, hey, I don't. You need someone to be the opposing
James
quarterback.
Daniels final year of his contract, then McCormick takes over. Yeah,
I think that's the plan. Yeah.
I thought the Browns, for a limited number of picks, hit on a few. I thought they did well, and then that leaves the Bengals. Right?
Yeah. How you feel about your Bengals draft?
I told you, I said, I'm going to take credit for saying this. I don't know if somebody else ever said this or not, but I'm taking credit for it now. I like the architecture of the draft. I love the way they attack the positions. I don't necessarily like the building materials. So that's kind of where I was at with the Bengals draft. If Amarius Mims hits, this is a win. But I think he is such a boomer bust player that he's either going to be an all-pro in 3 years or he's Jackson Carman. I don't see a whole lot of middle ground here. He's only played 8 games, and until Trent Brown gets hurt at some point, he's not going to play this year either. Chris Jenkins and McKinley Jackson are both going to play. Chris Jenkins is going to start, I would assume, as a rookie. All 10 of these guys aren't going to make this roster. I don't see how you couldn't have packaged some of these picks to go up and get Johnny Newton. That's the part that even in the second round at the top, that part stings a little bit. Jermaine Burton we'll see. And on the field, I think he fits everything the Bengals want in a wide receiver in this offense.
Yeah.
We just got to keep his head on straight there. He replaces Tyler Boyd immediately. And I think the reason they targeted Burton over some other wide receivers was, unlike Tyler Boyd, who's slot only, Burton, I think, gives them outside or inside, and they can move Chase around. And I think that's what they ultimately want to do. I like Matt Lee in the 7th round. I like Cedric Johnson in the 6th round, but I don't see a path for him to the 53. Is
that's fine. Practice squad. That's not bad. I love the Cedric Johnson pick. My thing with Burton is Zach Taylor has been very vocal, and your drafts have been adamant on high character. So maybe it tells me I dropped him way down due to character. Maybe it's not as bad as it seems. If the Bengals, everyone remembers the Bengals of old drafted all the character guys, but that's not the Bengals of now. No. And so maybe it says something about Burton. The character's not as bad as we think.
Let's hope.
What do you think of the tight ends? I kind of like their approach here.
Yeah,
With
I
Eric
like
All
drafting two of them.
I like
again,
All and McLaughlin. I think it's a good.
I like them, but
combination.
it's like could they have done better? I don't know. Maybe not.
Probably not in the 4th and 6th round per se. But you're getting, you get they value the number 2 blocker McLaughlin type, and then you have Eric All who can do that, which is necessary, but has a lot of that red zone ability. So
Yep,
I didn't mind it.
McLaughlin will be battling Tanner Hudson for
Yeah.
the final tight end spot, I believe. All's going to make it as the number 2 tight end, probably, or number 3, depending on how they view Drew. Well, they just extended Drew Sample on a 2-year deal, so obviously he's here to stay.
Yeah. They still Drew Sample, so
yeah, but he knows the offense and he can block. So there's that. There's something to be said for that, I guess. All right, let's move on to the NFC North, where we both have. I don't know if we both have a clear winner here, but we're just going to talk about Chicago because Chicago's never had a 4,000-yard passer. Chicago's never had a 30-touchdown passer. You think Caleb Williams is doing that this season?
I think 4,000 yards. You can't do it easily, but I think he's clearing both those marks if he plays every game this year, right? If he doesn't get hurt, this offense, they are building it for Caleb Williams. It's what they didn't do for Justin Fields. Drafting Rome Odunze at 9, having him fall into your lap, I think is just proof of, hey, we traded for Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, extended Cole Kmet. You brought in DeAndre Swift, paid him big money. Everything is in place. Caleb Williams doesn't have to be Superman like he was at USC. So to me, that's ideal because I feel like a lot of the number 1 pick quarterbacks, Trevor Lawrence, I think is a great example of he felt like he had to do everything, and I don't think Caleb Williams is going to come in feeling that way. And to me, that's what makes a successful quarterback. We saw with Justin Herbert in the Chargers when he first stepped in. He had the weapons, he had the running back, he had the infrastructure. I think Caleb Williams, they really built this infrastructure around him, including the 3rd round pick.
Yeah, Kiran Amegachi, the tackle from Yale, I think is a developmental guy, and could be a left tackle, could be a guard for them in the future. We'll see how that works out. But you get the best punter in the draft in the 4th round. Now, obviously, you shouldn't draft punters in the 4th round, but if you're going to do it, you might as well get the best. And getting a nice raw, high upside pass rusher in Austin Booker in the 5th round, I thought was a good job as well.
Yeah, the potential steal with Austin Booker because he's a great fit for this defense with the long arms, with the first step. Tory Taylor maybe a little bit high in the 4th as a punter, but I don't mind it when with how good Tory Taylor has been for Iowa consistently and how much he's had to punt. I think having a really good punter can change things. So I'm not opposed to drafting one there.
My favorite draft class here was the Detroit Lions. And I just thought they, outside of one pick that I think was about maybe a round too high, trading up to get Terran Arnold and getting Enos Rakestraw in the 2nd round, your biggest need was corner, and you got 2 potential starters in your first 2 picks. They traded up in the 4th to get Giovanni Manu.
They traded a 3rd round pick next year. I think that is a big mistake.
Yeah, that
huge mistake. You're drafting. Giovanni Manu has a ton of potential, but
he has to be Jordan Mailata, right?
Right. To trade a 3rd round pick next year for that is not, to me, is not smart.
But after that, you get Sione Vaki, who's Dan Campbell's
they drafted him a running back though. Come on.
Did they?
Yes. He's playing running back.
The TV said safety, but they're going to play him.
They announced him as a running back.
Really?
Yes.
Well, Paul will be happy.
I was going to say Paul nailed it, but really, he's going to be your 3rd running back just for fun in the 4th.
I don't know, but getting Makai Wingo in the 6th round and Christian Mahogany in the 6th round, I thought was great value there. Who didn't you like in the NFC North?
I think the Packers and Vikings both were a little bit rough. I'll probably go Packers because I do like the Vikings getting their quarterback, not giving up the farm. Moving up one pick to get McCarthy is fine, and the fact they got Dallas Turner to me is like, hey, you hit the biggest position on both sides of the ball. So I'll go with the Packers. I mean, I think Jordan Morgan, the offensive tackle from Arizona, we talked about before, slightly overdrafted. He's a fit. I could see it working out. I like Edgerrin Cooper, the linebacker from Texas A&M, and Tyron Hopper, the linebacker from Missouri they got later. But like day two linebackers when they had so much issue in the secondary, which they addressed with two safeties, Javon Bullard from Georgia and Evan Williams from Oregon, but no corners in this draft for the Packers. I think it's a mistake. Drafting Marshawn Lloyd in the third is like you just signed Josh Jacobs to a big deal, and you're going to draft a running back in the third round. It was just very meh draft for me from the Packers.
Technically, they did draft a corner if you count Kalen King. But
and pick 255. You finally got one.
So opposite of what I said about the Bengals here, I like the build. I like what they built the building out of, but it's just bugly.
Yeah.
Architecture is awful on this building. No, I like Edgerrin Cooper, Marshawn Lloyd, Javon Bullard, Evan Williams, Keaton Oladapo, even Michael Pratt in the 7th round.
Great value.
It was great value. It's just none of it made any sense when and where they drafted these players.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad draft, like you said. I think a lot of this draft
the players are good.
Yeah,
it's just
we're probably going to look back and be like, "Oh, this is pretty good," but it's not helping them. Go to the playoffs, and win some playoff games this year.
Yeah. I don't like JJ McCarthy, so I'm not a fan, but I did love the Dallas Turner pick. Tommy, go back to Caleb Williams. 235 a game times 17 games is 3,995. I think Williams can go over 4,000. Yeah, that's the math. That math that's mathing there. We'll be okay. Moving on, AFC West. This one is interesting.
Yeah, this one is interesting. I think I'm gonna go with. I think I'm gonna go with the Raiders for AFC West.
Your favorite?
As my favorite. Is that your least favorite?
No, I agree, okay. And I'm surprised I'm agreeing here.
I know. Like
I'm gonna be honest, I didn't know how much I liked the Raiders draft until I was pre-writing my review for the AFC West. I'm like, man, that's a good damn draft.
Yeah. Well, until last time we said that. Yeah, I mean, I think the Brock Bowers pick, didn't expect it, but I love getting a weapon, a slot. It's similar to Dalton Kincaid, right? You have your inline guy and Mayer, like the Bills do for Dawson Knox. Now you have your slot tight end and Brock Bowers, who's going to do a lot more. The offense needed a weapon more than people seem to think pre-draft, so I'm down for that. Jackson Powers-Johnson was my top interior lineman. You get him at 44. Plug and play set guard, it seems like is the plan, which I think's just fine. You were a Delmer Glaze fan. I was not. So I thought he was overdrafted at 77 overall, the tackle from Maryland. But the rest of the draft, I mean, DeCameron Richardson, the corner from Mississippi State's an old Raiders pick. Like he's a speed raw. I'm fine taking that shot in day 3 on upside. Tommy Eichenberg from Ohio State, Dylan Lave from New Hampshire, both guys that I think are going to make teams and end up contributing in some way. And then they take Trey Taylor, the safety from Air Force, who was he was a high green Raz player, special teamer. So I really do like this draft compared to the rest in the division.
Yeah, even MJ Devonshire, I think 7th round corner there. All these picks could make their 53 next year and make impacts. I like this draft. I like the Chiefs' first 4 picks. Kind of dizzy after that. Chargers were interesting. I would say Joe Alt, obviously. I mean, let's talk about the Chargers. Joe Alt, obviously, is a stud left tackle for them. Getting
but wait. Let's not
I'm sorry, right tackle. We're going to move into right tackle.
Yeah, but why are we moving to right tackle? What are you doing? Like, I love Joe Alt, but this is setting him up for failure, I think, to move him to right tackle. When he's played left tackle extremely successfully for 3 years, been one of the best in college football since he stepped on the field as 18 years old. And we're going to move him to right tackle. Like, why? Don't draft him. Don't draft Joe Alt then. I think it's I'm scared. I'm a little scared.
Is this why everybody started projecting JC Latham there to them late in the process?
Right. That's exactly why I want to put JC Latham there, because that's a guy you're plugging right into where he played. And I don't think it's as easy as just you can flip your side of the field. You know, I think it's more difficult than you let on. And I think Joe Alt's great, amazing, so he can do it. But why do this? You didn't need to draft a tackle at 5. He just did it. And I think it would have been much better for them to take Malik Neighbors at 5 and draft the tackle at 34.
What tackles were left at 34 though?
Yeah, I mean, let's see. What we had Patrick Paul went later, Blake Fisher, Roger Rosengarten, Kingsley Somatea. I feel like any of those I would have been happy with at 34.
Lad McConkey, their replacement for Keenan Allen, I presume here.
Yeah, I think he's the wide receiver 1 easily next year.
Junior Colson, I think, is a solid, probably going to be, Harbaugh, and then we're going to trust him to probably be the green
80 tackle guy, 90 tackle
he's
guy.
He's the green dot guy, right out of the gate. I like the Cam Hart. I actually like Cam Hart selection way more than I did Tarheeb Steele, who they drafted 3 spots ahead. I think Kamani Vidal's got a chance to get some carries, a good chunk of carries as a rookie. And what do you think about their 2 7th-round wide receiver picks? Are they both going to make it?
I think both have a shot to make it. They probably, what we probably see is 1 spot for both of them, right? Because I think Quentin Johnston, Josh Palmer, Lad McConkey, Darius Davis probably make it.
Obviously, Cornelius Johnson has the advantage then, right?
He's known, but Brendan Rice pretty successful. A lot of people thought he'd go in the 3rd or 4th round.
Are we both on negative on the Broncos?
Yeah, I mean, I think drafting Bo Nix at 12. They're kind of setting him up well. I couldn't believe Troy Franklin was available at 102 for the Broncos.
Their day 3 to me is much better than their day 1 and 2.
I agree.
Yeah, I like Troy Franklin at 102. I love Chris Abrams-Drain at 145. Estime at 147 feels good.
Yeah,
I don't like Nick Gargiulo they announced him as a center, so good luck.
Right. No, but I think Audric Estime, the running back out of Notre Dame, can push Javonte Williams even a little bit there. And pairing Troy Franklin with his college quarterback, with Bo Nix, I think is such a huge plus to try to help Bo Nix feel comfortable in this offense. I don't like the Bo Nix pick at 12. I don't think either of us had Bo Nix anywhere close to the 1st round. But if you want to be successful, I think pairing him up with his main target is a good way to do that.
Barring catastrophe, he's going to be their week 1 starter.
Yeah,
you can't trot out Zach Wilson or Jarrett Stidham, man. Yeah, Bo Nix is their week 1 starter. Good, bad, or indifferent. That's the way it's going to be. Well, let's move on to the NFC West and wrap up this.
Let's
this breakdown here. 49ers, Cardinals,
Seahawks,
and Rams. Who did you like here?
I think the Rams had the best draft in the league, so that's my number 1 draft. I think you're with me in our love for Jared Verse, the edge rusher out of Florida State, and pairing him with Braden Fisk is his partner in crime there. And we saw both those guys dominate at times for Florida State. I love that pairing. I think Blake Corum fits this offense so well, the running back from Michigan, where Kieran Williams went down with an injury, missed multiple games last season. I think Corum can actually step in. I still like Cameron Kinchins. 99, I think, is fine. Take a shot, even with the athletic profile. Cameron Kinchins was very successful. Then I really like their day 3. I think Brennan Jackson, the edge from Washington State, if he had went day 2, it would have been fine. Tyler Davis, the D tackle from Clemson in the 6th, very good reserve. Josh McCarty, my top kicker, they got as later than that. I love Bo Lemer, the center from Arkansas. Like I think Jordan Whittington, the receiver from Texas, a good special teams blocking guy. Like I think this was a really solid draft, and I think that Verse Fisk start is really going to help this defense immediately.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything you said there, but for the contrarian sake here, I'm going to say the Arizona Cardinals.
Also a good one. Yeah.
And you can't really go wrong when you're dropping 12 draft picks, right?
Right.
So
you can. I mean, really
half of them hit. You had a great draft.
Good.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So it starts at the top. The no-brainer pick, Marvin Harrison Jr. You get, I don't want to say a J.J. Watt replacement, but that's essentially the role he's going to play in that Cardinals defense. Darius Robinson. I love the corner selections here. Max Melton and Elijah Jones both, I think, can make early contributions here, although I was lower on Elijah Jones. We both were in the 3rd round, but obviously the league valued him much higher than we did. Trey Benson in the 3rd round. This is a home run, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably going to get the lion's share of the carries by the end of the season, right?
James Conner has never played a full NFL season, so
right.
I think we're going to see some Trey Benson this year.
Pairing Tip Ryman with Trey McBride, I think, is fun. And you get some good depth there with Isaiah Adams, Xavier Thomas, Dadrian Taylor-Demerson, Christian Jones, who I think has starter upside for the Cardinals. And I think Jaden Davis, even in the 7th round, as a potential nickel as a rookie, I think has a chance to make it. And so I was a big fan of the Cardinals draft.
Yeah, I like the Hawks taking Tip Raymond, taking a block, number 2 blocker tight end at 82 overall was not my cup of tea. I got a lot of needs. I wouldn't get your number 2 tight end there. But it is a good draft. I mean, Harrison and Benson and Kyler Murray, I think you're going to have a solid skill core that's going to be phenomenal.
Seahawks were okay. Nothing to write home about. I'm not going to talk badly about them. The 49ers, though, man, this wasn't it for me, dog.
What's going on with this draft? I mean, the Ricky Pearsall pick at 31, the receiver from Florida. Can I say one thing? That gives me a lot of pause for Anthony Richardson, right? When you had a 1st round receiver on your college team and you couldn't throw over 54% completion. That's a red flag for the future, perhaps, for the Colts.
In all fairness, that was the only skill player on that team outside of Travis Etienne that was any good, right?
That's fair. But, Pearsall is a good fit.
Yes.
But I don't think you take a guy – the same problem I have with Xavier Legette going the first. I don't think you take a guy that didn't do anything until he was 22, 23 years old in the 1st round. And yeah, I mean, the rest of the draft was just very uninspiring.
Outside of Dominic Pooney at 86, I liked Bernardo Green at 64 is just way overdrafted to me. Isaac Guerrero, I mean, they've got 850 running backs on that roster already. So that seemed off. Jacob Cowing, I think, is another receiver that's going to make their team.
You want a hot take? I think Jacob Cowing is going to be a better NFL receiver than Ricky Pearsall.
There you go. You heard it here first.
That's my hot take.
Seattle's draft, like I said, I know our man here, Brian Lamb, thought Tyrese Lamb went a little earlier than he thought, but loves the value for the Seahawks at 118.
So I think Tyrese State's a solid pick there. Early day 3 could come in and be. They kind of need another, young thumper that can come in and tackle. I think Tyrese State can do that.
I like their 6th round picks, Satoa Laumea from Utah and DJ James. I like them. I thought DJ James should have got drafted way higher than his teammate Nehemiah Pritchett. Christian Haynes in the third round was good. Byron Murphy in the first round was good, but a solid draft from
a solid
Seahawks.
draft all around.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's going to do it for that portion of the program, Shane.
Yeah.
Overall thoughts on the 2024 NFL draft.
I think it's going to turn out to be a pretty good draft. I think we'll look back fairly fondly, especially on the offensive players. And I think there's some that are locked in. Obviously, having that many quarterbacks go in the top 12, some are going to work out pretty well, and some are really not. So this draft is going to be one of those fun ones to redraft in 5 years and see some guys just fall out and some guys really rise up from some of those later rounds and picks.
I didn't check Twitter to see if we got any questions there. Let me check that really quick.
Yeah, I didn't see anything, but definitely possible. So
does not look like we did. We have a couple, I believe, in the comments here. We go back through
on YouTube here. Got a couple.
Yep. Jimmy said, "Give me your top 5 who should have been drafted." So I got that pulled up, Shane. I'll go through that really quick.
Yeah.
On my board, the top 5 UDFAs I have here that should have been drafted. Gabriel Murphy, the edge rusher from UCLA, easily the top for me, was 106 on my board. Leonard Taylor III from Miami. What a fall from grace, the defensive lineman there. He signed with the Jets. Murphy signed with the Vikings. Nelson Caesar, the edge rusher from Houston, signed with the Seahawks. Gabe Hall, who I mentioned earlier, defensive lineman from Baylor, signed with the Eagles. And Javion Cohen, interior offensive line, who at one time I think we both had mocked in a first round at some point when he was at Alabama. The interior offensive lineman from Miami, signed with the Browns as the UDFA. Shane, your top 5, somewhat similar, Murphy and Taylor and Gabe Hall in there, but you also had Bo Braid, the safety from Maryland, signed with the Ravens, and Josh Proctor, safety from Ohio State, signed with the Jags.
There you go. Yeah.
So, a couple of the comments we didn't see. Tommy thought the Pats had a good draft. I like May and the 2 receivers, Ed, and a couple of offensive linemen. Well, good job in his opinion.
Once again, the architecture was good, right? But the building materials were not there for the Patriots.
Yep.
So
is that it?
Pretty solid.
Yep, that's it. Yep, that's it from our question and answer portion of the show. Final thoughts, Shane, as we get everybody ready for 2025 next week.
No, yeah, let's. I'm excited to look ahead. I gotta clean up my board a little bit still for 25, as I watched a couple new players that you had in your mock, and saw a couple other mocks that I hadn't really watched yet. So I'm excited to talk about it and get in. This is what we do, and hopefully people will look forward to that.
Absolutely. So next week we're going to go position by position and kind of briefly look at the 2025 prospects and set the board up there, and then sign off, Shane, as we break for the summer.
Yeah, sounds great.
But Jimmy thinks Sam Hartman could be the next Kurt Warner. Good luck with that.
Oh, yeah, he's as beautiful. So that if it goes by looks, then I'm in on Sam Hartman.
Sam Hartman, baby, coming to a Food Network program near you, sir.
Yeah, him and Eric Decker.
He's gonna take that Jesse Palmer route.
Yeah, there you go. I could see it.
Yep. So again, that's going to do it for tonight's edition of the Draft Countdown podcast. If you're new to the channel on YouTube, Twitter, whatever, go to our YouTube channel. Please hit subscribe. If you are listening to this on an audio platform, be it Spotify or Apple Podcasts, give us a 5-star review, share that as well. On Twitter, you can follow me at Deep Fried Draft. Follow Shane on Twitter at Shane P. Hallam. Follow Draft Countdown on Twitter at Draft Countdown, and head over to draftcountdown.com for all of your NFL draft needs. For Shane, I'm Brian. Good night, everybody.